Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Six Path Weeb, and today we're exploring an intriguing scenario. What if Naruko confronted Kaguya first? Part 3. Quick disclaimer, all content on this channel is for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage used, full credit goes to the original creators and copyright holders. Alright, let's dive in. Naruko woke with a start, feeling someone nearby. She lifted her head and noticed a familiar flash of flaming red hair beside her. Blinking in surprise, she realized she had dozed off in a rather unusual position. Quickly composing herself, she created a clone and used her Kawarimi technique to move away from the situation. She shook her head with a sigh, thinking about the strange circumstances of her morning. After a brisk shower and quickly dressing, Naruko made her way to check on her friends. She knocked gently on the door where Hiromi slept to make sure she was awake. Then she began preparing breakfast. A few minutes later, Kaguya emerged, her usual mischievous expression in place. She wore a cozy bathrobe made of soft, warm material. "You know, there are easier ways to get my attention," Naruko commented with a calm tone. Kaguya pouted slightly. "I just like being around you. Your bed is cozier than anywhere else." Naruko rolled her eyes but returned to her cooking, soon joined by Hiromi, who yawned and greeted them. Naruko noticed Hiromi's cheerful demeanor as she moved past, and she smiled politely. The three of them shared breakfast while discussing their plans. "So, what are we doing today?" Hiromi asked, stretching and looking curious. "Well," Naruko said thoughtfully, "I think we should start by exploring the city itself for at least a week. Then we can venture to the outskirts for 2 weeks and finally visit the surrounding villages for 3 weeks. We'll wrap up with one final survey here in the last week. How does that sound?" Hiromi considered this. It might take longer to fully understand the surrounding towns. There could be unexpected challenges along the way. Kaguya nodded. 2 months is a tight schedule, but this plan gives us a solid starting point. We can adjust if needed. They were still planning when a knock came at the door. Naruko, now fully dressed and wearing a mask and sunglasses for discretion, opened it to find the auburn-haired Jonin from the day before standing there. "Hello," the Jonin said. "I've been assigned to escort you around town. When will you be ready?" Naruko stepped aside to let her in. She noticed the Jonin raising an eyebrow at Kaguya and Hiromi, who both carried an air of confidence and poise. "So, what is your name?" Naruko asked politely. "My Jonin number is 315. You may address me as that," she replied. Naruko shook her head gently. "I mean your actual name, when you're not on duty." The Jonin hesitated for a moment. I am Mei Terumi." "It's nice to meet you, Terumi-san," Naruko said with a smile. "These are my friends, Hiromi and Kaguya. Hiromi is the shorter one with golden hair." Mei bowed politely. "It's good to meet you both." Kaguya added, "It's nice to see that not all Kiri shinobi are so serious." Mei chuckled softly. "We need to be careful, given the situation in the region." Hiromi nodded in agreement, and Naruko quickly stepped in to keep the conversation friendly. "Ladies, let's remember our manners. We are guests here, after all." Kaguya teased lightly, sticking her tongue out. "Always the responsible one, huh?" Naruko smiled and turned back to Mei. "So, Terumi-san, we'll start by exploring the village for a week, then move to nearby areas, and finally the neighboring towns. Does that work?" Mei thought for a moment. "Yes, that works. Just be aware that outside the city, there may be challenges. I can guide you, but you must stay alert." Naruko waved her off confidently. "Don't worry. We're ready for anything. Once everyone's dressed, we can get started." Time skip, 2 days. Naruko stood quietly at the edge of the training grounds, her mind calm and observant, while Kaguya and Hiromi stood beside her. The last 2 days had passed in a blur, filled mostly with walking and carefully avoiding questions from their caretaker. At one point, Mei asked Kaguya what was Naruko's issue, since she neither asked nor responded to questions directed her way. Kaguya, growing slightly impatient, simply told Mei to ask Naruko directly rather than troubling him or Hiromi. Meanwhile, Kaguya and Hiromi had been taking detailed notes. But instead of studying economic stability or local governance, they focused on defense positions, approximate numbers of shinobi, and potential points of entry. Even if they weren't permitted to participate in the conflict directly, their observations could help those working to improve the city's current difficult conditions. Whether the rebels would make things better or not was uncertain, but anything would be an improvement over the status quo. Naruko's thoughts were interrupted when 4 figures entered the training grounds. One was the Mizukage, another their guide, and 2 others she did not recognize. Naruko wore her half mask and glasses, which made the Mizukage slightly uneasy, as they could not read her expression. "Welcome, Naruko-san. We shall have my best Jonin face you. How shall the matches proceed?" the Mizukage asked. Naruko shrugged. "Have 2 go first, then the next match can be against 1. The matches will continue until one side can no longer continue due to exhaustion or being overwhelmed. No dangerous strikes, and Mizukage-sama, you will serve as the referee." Yugra raised an eyebrow at the arrangement, but nodded in agreement. Jonin number 385 and number 215 will start. Jonin number 315 will follow, and Jonin number 18 will act as referee. Naruko acknowledged this calmly. The Mizukage had chosen the stadium used for the Chunin exams as the training area. With the civil unrest, the exams hadn't been held in Kiri for over 5 years and were unlikely to return for some time. The stands were filled with spectators, both shinobi and civilians alike. Kyu and Hiromi found seats in the spectator box, quietly exchanging words of anticipation for the upcoming matches. Jonin number 385, Hanso, and number 215, Mai-Sin, stepped into the arena. Hanso, shorter than Naruko, wore simple armor and carried a large sword on his back. Mai-Sin was about Naruko's height and wore a distinctive purple hakama, with a kodashi sword at her waist. Jonin number 18 entered the arena and signaled the start of the match without waiting for readiness confirmation. The 2 Jonin charged at Naruko, who gracefully dodged their attacks. She drew a pair of kunai and began deflecting their strikes with skill. The duel continued for 5 minutes, and Naruko remained composed, barely exerting herself. Using a controlled gust of wind channeled through the kunai, she pushed them back a few steps and drew her primary sword. Naruko advanced. She moved swiftly, attempting to outmaneuver Hanso, who tried to counter with her sword. Anticipating this, Naruko anchored her blade in the ground, used it as leverage to flip over, and landed a precise knee strike that sent her opponent back several feet. With a fluid motion, Naruko executed a spinning sweep that knocked the other Jonin off balance. A wind blade formed in front of her, demonstrating control of chakra from several feet away. Observers, except for Kyu, were stunned at the display of wind manipulation at such a distance. Within minutes, the match concluded. "Winner, Konoha," the referee announced. Naruko sheathed her sword and dissipated the wind blade effortlessly. Mei, observing from the stands, felt a flicker of doubt. If 2 opponents could not challenge her, how would she fare against a single Jonin? Jonin number 315, enter the arena, Yugra commanded. Mei stepped forward, hoping Naruko would temper her efforts. The match began with Mei forming intricate hand seals. "Yotan, Kazanga no Dama," she called, sending molten projectiles toward Naruko. The skilled ninja sidestepped with precision, closing the distance to prevent the sub-element technique from being fully executed. Naruko recognized the subtlety of her opponent's skill. Using a sub-element required a specific bloodline. How Mei had remained undetected for so long was a mystery, but Naruko set that aside, focusing on the battle. The 2 engaged in close combat, exchanging blows. Mei attempted to overwhelm Naruko with a boil release technique, enveloping the area in dense mist. Naruko countered with clones to distract her opponent and formed her own hand seals. "Katen, Karyu Enden," she called, unleashing a magnificent fire dragon. The crowd felt the heat as the technique interacted with the molten formations Mei had conjured. Mei retaliated with a concentrated lava geyser, but Naruko responded with a thermal release technique, creating a brilliant stream of white fire. The clash of elemental techniques was spectacular, showcasing the strength and versatility of both shinobi. Eventually, Mei's lava formation dissipated, and she stepped back, breathing heavily. Naruko approached calmly, using a wind blade to lift her gently, signaling the match's end. "Winner, Konoha," the referee declared. Mei, though exhausted, had been pushed to her limits in a match she would never forget. Naruko, still composed in her half mask and glasses, assisted her to the medic station. The minor injuries, chakra fatigue, physical exhaustion, and a few bruises, would recover quickly with rest and care. Hiromi whispered to Kyu, "That was incredible. Naruko's skill. Unmatched." Naruko smiled faintly beneath her mask, joining her companions after ensuring Mei was safe. Cage box. Naruko arrived with her companions, ready for assessment. "Very impressive matches, Uzumaki-san," Mizukage commented. "I can see why Konoha is known as one of the strongest hidden villages." Naruko gave a small bow. "Thank you, Mizukage-sama. It was an honor to spar with your shinobi. Yugra's expression briefly faltered, though she quickly composed herself. Is something troubling you, Misakage-sama? Naruko asked. Yugra hesitated before replying. It is the jutsu you demonstrated. I wasn't aware that the Uzumaki lineage had abilities tied to a sub-element. Naruko considered this carefully. It is a rare skill, passed down from my father. While I don't know him personally, I have studied the Uzumaki lineage extensively. I hope this does not affect the trust between our villages. Yugra nodded thoughtfully. Regarding your forces, she continued, your shinobi show great skill, but their teamwork could be improved. They rely heavily on their swords and would benefit from a wider range of techniques. However, Jonin number 315 demonstrates remarkable form and a strong repertoire of jutsu. I noticed, Yugra murmured, a subtle compliment that did not go unheard. I will report my observations to Tsunade-sama for review, Naruko said. Your team has potential, but there is room for growth. Yugra nodded solemnly. Though she appreciated an outsider's perspective, it was always difficult for a hidden village to admit that help was needed. Thank you for your insight. Feel free to explore the city. Jonin number 315 will be unavailable for a few days, so another escort will accompany you. Naruko bowed in acknowledgement, noting the gentle dismissal. She and her companion stepped outside to find their next escort waiting. Time skip, 2 weeks. Naruko, along with her companions, settled outside the city walls, staying in a nearby village with Mei and an extra Jonin for guidance and security. Though the village was far from perfect, it offered a more comfortable environment than Kiri. That night, Naruko sat by the fire, studying a scroll on human anatomy. Her companions quietly entered, casting protective wards around the area to ensure privacy. Naruko, one of her friends began, hesitating. We want you to let us in, the other said gently. Naruko regarded them silently, listening as they explained their concern. They wished for her to feel supported and understood, hoping she would trust them with her emotions. We know you've been through a lot, her companion said softly. We just want to be here for you. You don't have to face everything alone. Naruko paused, touched by their sincerity. She had kept her emotions carefully guarded for so long that it was unusual to encounter such unconditional support. Her companion's words continued, emphasizing friendship, trust, and mutual care. Naruko reflected on their dedication and realized she had found people who genuinely wanted to help her, not out of obligation but because they valued her well-being. I appreciate that, Naruko finally said. It means a lot to know you're here for me. I think we should make this official, in a way that shows our commitment to each other. Her companions leaned in, curious. A formal promise, Naruko explained, a bond of trust and friendship. Something permanent that reminds us we'll support one another no matter what. Both companions smiled and nodded enthusiastically. Of course. We've already said we'll do everything we can for you, one said warmly. Naruko embraced them, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. In their support, she found comfort and strength. Together, they would continue their journey, growing stronger as friends and allies. Let's get some rest now, one companion suggested softly. Tomorrow is another day of learning and training. Naruko nodded, feeling a sense of peace for the first time in a long while. They settled by the fire, sharing warmth, laughter, and quiet companionship as the night carried on. Kanahagakure no Sato. Sakura walked home after a long double shift at the hospital. Ever since she had been trained as a nurse, she had spent most of her time assisting doctors, cleaning up, and managing minor medical procedures. While she enjoyed medicine, she often wished she could focus more on hands-on treatments and advanced care rather than routine chores. Her education hadn't been the most rigorous. It was nothing like training under Tsunade would have been, it would have been amazing. Instead, she had outdated textbooks and a teacher with a less than stellar reputation. Sakura often felt frustrated, learning only the basics while yearning to understand the deeper techniques of healing and treatment. Rounding the corner to her apartment complex, she passed the Yamanaka flower shop. Hey Sakura, a voice called. Sakura recognized it immediately and didn't even bother to look. Hi, Ino, she replied wearily. Any adventures today? Ino teased. Sakura, too tired to engage, frowned. That was more than 3 years ago. Can't you just let it go? Ino stared at her, unrelenting. I'll let it go when Naruko does. This is your opportunity to make amends. Do you feel any regret for the way things turned out? Sakura's expression hardened. It's not like you treated her any better. You were angry at her too. Ino shook her head. Don't compare yourself to me. I may have had my struggles, but I never hurt anyone the way you did. I may have liked Sasuke, but I didn't let that make me unkind to others. Their disagreement drew the attention of other members of the Rookie 11. Lee stayed silent but avoided talking to Sakura. Kenten, Shikamaru, Neji, Kuji, Kiba, and Hinata gave subtle looks, hoping she would feel the weight of her past actions. Shino still spoke to her, encouraging reflection and personal growth. Sakura finally turned away and entered her apartment. On her door, someone had scrawled hurtful words with a minor fire jutsu. She sighed and collapsed onto the couch. On the floor lay her daily fan mail. Despite the negativity, many villagers thanked her for her past bravery, praising her for keeping peace in the village. As she drifted off to sleep, she wondered when Naruko would return so she could reconnect with her friends. Next morning, Naruko woke feeling lighter than she had in years, as if a great burden had been lifted from her mind. She tried to sit up, and her eyes widened at what she saw around her. Hiromi and Q were nearby, sharing the space comfortably, wrapped in blankets. Naruko realized she was still dressed appropriately, which gave her relief. The warmth and comfort of friendship filled her heart, and she smiled at the calm start to the day. A knock at the door reminded her that the day's plans were waiting. Kyubi quickly donned her clothes and opened the door for Mei, who was delivering news about a change in plans. "Good morning," Mei greeted politely. "There's been a change in today's schedule." Kyubi nodded. "Understood." Hiromi stepped out of the bathroom, freshly dressed. Naruko led them all out of the village with a determined pace. Mei, concerned for safety, called out. "This isn't authorized. You shouldn't leave the village on your own." Naruko glanced back, her confidence unwavering. "We'll be careful. Trust me, Mei. You'll see why this is important." Eventually, they arrived at a massive ancient rock. Naruko touched it, and the rock slowly revealed a hidden stairway. With courage and curiosity, they descended into the hidden cavern. The underground space was immense, echoing like the caves of Hai no Kuni. Naruko illuminated the cavern with a glowing orb of fire, revealing an enormous, fantastical creature. It had 3 arms, 2 heads, and 4 sturdy legs, with a skin texture that looked like stone. "Who enters my cavern?" the left head demanded. "I am Naruko Uzumaki, follower of the Sage of 6 Paths. I seek knowledge and guidance," Naruko declared confidently. Kyubi whispered a warning, "Be careful, Naruko. This is a legendary guardian, created long ago." The creature regarded them, intrigued. The left head laughed, amused by their bravery. "This is remarkable. To see such determination from one so young. Fascinating." Naruko, filled with wonder, stepped forward, ready to meet the challenge and uncover the secrets of the ancient cavern. Once again, Mei's eyes widened. "She is a Baijuu? Who exactly is this woman? She has been around for the past 3 weeks." Mei suddenly realized that she knew very little about these extraordinary beings. Several glowing marks appeared on Kyubi's head. "I will show you my true form. You should remember why I am the most powerful of the mystical creatures." Mei took a step back as a red aura enveloped Kyubi. Her fur and ears grew, 9 tails unfurled, and her size increased dramatically. Soon, Kyubi was towering, half the height of the cavern. She let out a mighty roar that echoed through the space, her tail swaying with grace and strength. The opposing creature appeared uneasy. To think that the ruler of mystical beings was accompanying a human, Naruko, the heir of the one who originally bonded with her, was astonishing. The assumption that she had weakened herself by doing so was clearly mistaken. The creature began chanting in a strange and ancient language, but moments later, Kyubi's tails gently restrained it, halting the chant. Now. I can't let you wander off," Kyubi said with a firm but controlled tone. "Tell me, what is your name?" "It's Realgeos," the creature replied hesitantly. "Well, Realgeos, appearances can be deceiving," Kyubi said. With a graceful motion, she neutralized the creature without harm, and the fragments of energy dissolved harmlessly into the ground. Kyubi returned to her human-like form, though her ears and tails remained. She walked over and embraced Naruko. "Are you okay?" Naruko asked. Kyubi nodded. "I'm just a bit shaken. Those portals only appear when the leader of the mystical realm summons someone. Our friend will be restored and report what they know, but since I am near my full strength and free from my seal, other creatures may come seeking us." "And why is that?" Hiromi asked. "Because they recognize my strength," Kyubi explained. "Once they learn about Naruko's abilities and heritage, they will respect her as well. Naruko is descended from one of the most powerful humans ever, and this will command attention. We need to remain vigilant on our journey. Naruko nodded and took Kyuubi's hand, leading her toward the ancient tablet. The usual inscriptions were carved into the stone, and Naruko placed her palms against it. Immediately, she felt her mind being carefully scanned. Though not unpleasant, it was intense, and her hands felt a strange sensation as the energy of the tablet interacted with her. Kyuubi stood behind her, ready to assist if needed. Hiromi approached Mei. "Come, sit," she instructed. Mei hesitated but eventually obeyed, sensing the seriousness in Hiromi's voice. "Who are you people?" she asked. Hiromi answered calmly, "I am a dragon, a protector summoned by Naruko. Kyuubi is a mystical creature who once safeguarded the village long ago. And Naruko was her host until recently, when she found a safe way to control her powers." Naruko added, "I am of the Uzumaki clan, which holds remarkable abilities in our blood. The tombs we have visited are part of a legacy left to ensure these powers are preserved." Mei listened thoughtfully. "So you're not entirely human?" Hiromi nodded. "We may appear as humans, but we are linked to beings with extraordinary energy. Our forms and powers are unique, but we maintain our sense of humanity." Mei relaxed slightly. "And why is that significant to you?" Hiromi regarded her carefully. "Because it assures us that Naruko's freedom and abilities remain intact. Our species may differ, but respect and friendship transcend such boundaries." Before the conversation could continue, Naruko gave a small grunt. Hiromi was immediately at her side, and Kyuubi nodded in readiness. Within moments, Naruko was safely guided away from the tablet's energy, resting her head gently in Hiromi's lap. She opened her eyes and smiled, seeing the care from her companions. "That has to be the best way to wake up," Naruko said warmly, making both Hiromi and Kyuubi blush. They all shared a moment of relief and happiness, strengthened by their trust and teamwork. Naruko then turned to the stone tablet and continued to study its inscriptions. She read about the history of the Baijuu, mystical beings created from concentrated energy called yoki. They could form physical bodies, control extraordinary energy, and had personalities modeled after specific animals. Naruko explained, their powers can enhance those they bond with, and their forms can be adjusted to suit their preferences. Our mission is to understand and guide them responsibly. Hiromi added, understanding these beings is essential for maintaining balance and peace. Knowledge and preparation will keep us and those around us safe. Naruko sighed and walked toward Mei. This is what we came to uncover. We will leave for Konoha next week. Please keep this information private, it is crucial for everyone's safety. Mei's eyes widened. I don't know what to do, she admitted. You act with courage, Kyuubi encouraged. Use your skills and wisdom to protect what you believe in. Naruko offered, we can guide you, but you must also commit to keeping this a secret. Mei considered her options. Could I accompany you to Konoha? She asked quietly. Hiromi and Kyuubi immediately became cautious, protective of Naruko. But Naruko shook her head. That isn't possible, she explained gently. It could be misinterpreted as disloyalty. However, you could aid the rebels by sharing what you know and proving your intentions honestly. Even a small role can make a difference when guided by integrity. Mei nodded slowly, understanding her path. Though her journey was uncertain, she knew her choices mattered, and that courage and honesty would guide her forward. Mei considered the situation carefully. It would certainly be preferable to serving someone unreasonable and harmful. Being part of the front line for operations would be challenging, though. There was no need to exaggerate what her role would be. Low-level ninja were primarily used to support operations, testing strategies and slowing down opposition forces, and she would be directly involved in that. However, there was also potential for growth, even if she did not actively seek it. If things did not go as planned, she could always leave Mizu no Kuni and find a place where her unique skills and abilities would be highly valued. I'll join the rebels, but I don't know how to contact them. On top of that, I need to move carefully when security is low. Kyuubi smiled thoughtfully. I've been thinking about a way to handle that. Time skip, 5 days. It was 2 days before Naruko and her survey team would complete their assessment. At this moment, they were being escorted by Mei and another Jonin to the last town on their route. Naruko and the other girls had explained the entire situation to Mei, except for the details about Naruko's father. Mei was curious how Naruko knew the exact location of the tomb. Naruko shrugged. I'm drawn to it. I can't explain why. Hiromi stumbled over a hidden branch in the tall brush. Mei noticed immediately. It was the agreed-upon signal. She moved up from the back of the group and quietly gestured to the Jonin leading them. All right, let's set the scene, Mei whispered. Hiromi, Kyuubi, you know what to do. The women nodded and got to work. While Kyubi prepared specific supplies and tools, Hiromi sharpened her focus and coordinated with Kyubi. They carefully set up markers and props to simulate a realistic scenario. Once they completed the preparations, they created the appearance of bandages and minor injuries with dirt and makeup, ensuring everything looked authentic but safe. Satisfied with their work, they handed over their documentation to Mei while keeping the accurate notes on the economic conditions of the villages they had visited. Naturally, no official would willingly allow such sensitive information to be fully shared. Meanwhile, Naruko focused her energy, performing a complex series of hand signs. Katen, Karyuenden. Fire release, Fire Dragon Flame Bullet. A magnificent flaming dragon appeared, carefully directing the energy to simulate a controlled display without causing any harm. She continued to refine the effects, adding layers of controlled energy to enhance the scene. Anetsuse, Kami no Hagra. Thermal release, Ashes of God. White, shimmering flames spread gently across the area, disintegrating controlled props and elements that enhance the illusion. Once Naruko had finished, she checked on Hiromi and Mei's progress. Mei skillfully executed her techniques, combining water, fire, and other elemental jutsu to complement the setup. She had also arranged tools and markers to make the scene convincingly realistic. Satisfied, she regrouped with the team. So, that's done. Now we just need to send the report to the Mizukage, Naruko said quietly, almost to herself. The plan had multiple contingency measures to ensure everything went smoothly. Mei rejoined the group, still acting cautiously. I suppose this is goodbye for now. Maybe once the situation is resolved, I'll visit Konoha. Naruko nodded. Perhaps. Take care, Terumi-san. They exchanged a firm handshake before Mei moved gracefully into the trees. Kyubi glanced at Naruko. You seem to like her, don't you? Naruko's expression was unreadable. Perhaps as a friend. But I won't allow myself to feel more without assurances. Hiromi and Kyubi gave Naruko a warm group hug. Although Naruko enjoyed the comfort, it was time to continue. Let's move. The techniques we performed are sure to attract attention. Time skip, next day. Can you explain what happened? A concerned Yugra asked. Upon receiving the report, he had immediately dispatched several high-level jonin to verify the situation. They escorted the team directly to his office. It's exactly as the report described. While traveling between villages, one of the jonin was accidentally incapacitated by a training exercise gone awry. Then, a group of rebels appeared and were quickly dispersed. Hiromi-san and Kyubi-san were involved in minor accidents but nothing serious. I then handled the situation carefully to prevent further issues. Once we arrived at the town, I administered first aid. Fortunately, most issues were superficial. Yugra frowned, sensing something unusual. While there were signs that an incident had occurred, he lacked concrete evidence. The setup seemed plausible, but the details required careful verification. Very well. Please hand over your notes for inspection before departure. A boat will be prepared for you to leave tomorrow at 8 a.m. Naruko, Hiromi, and Kyubi bowed respectfully. Thank you, Mizukage-sama. Once Kyubi and I present our findings to Hokage-sama, we will provide a copy so you can further strengthen your economy, Hiromi said. Yugra nodded. Understood. You are dismissed. Time skip, 3 weeks later. The boat glided into the harbor just outside waves. The trio stepped onto solid ground, stretching their limbs after the long journey. Hiromi offered a playful smile. Shall we skip the walk and head straight to Konoha? She suggested. Naruko tilted her head in curiosity. And how exactly would we do that? Hiromi blinked in mild surprise. Oh, did you forget that I'm a dragon? I can fly. I could even carry Kyubi in her fox form. Naruko lightly tapped her forehead with a hand. Ah, I see. I guess I got so used to you in human form that I forgot. Hiromi draped her arms around Naruko's shoulders with a warm grin. No worries. I'm just happy we're together again. Before the moment could linger, Kyubi leapt playfully onto Naruko's back. No cozy moments without me, she exclaimed. Naruko blinked, a mix of exasperation and amusement crossing her face. Dear Kami, what have I gotten myself into? Dear YouTube family. This is all for now. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel to join me on more adventures and discoveries. Your support makes all the difference. Thank you. Regards. 6 Path Weeb.